Milwaukee's Corbin Burnes. He's going to face the Cardinals tonight. He's going to cost you $10,200 in salary. Now, last time out, he went for 49.6 DK fantasy points against the Cubs. Plus, Burnes matched an MLB record by striking out 10 consecutive Cubs during that dominant stretch of a 15 strikeout, 8-inning masterpiece at Wrigley. So Nick, Chaser Fade, Milwaukee's ace is a must roster tonight after that resume-building Cy Young Award performance.
If you're running multiple lineups, then it is a chase. But otherwise, I'm going to fade and not going to go with Burnes tonight. Now, making the case for Burnes, he's done well against the Cardinals the 2 times he's seen him this season. He hasn't seen him in a little bit, though. And you look at the Cubs, of course, we bring up the 15 strikeouts, but the Cubs strike out a lot against right-handed pitching. The Cardinals, they don't necessarily do that quite as much. And I know Burnes had a pretty good showing against the Reds, I want to say 4 starts ago, prior to his Cubs outing. But in between that, he wasn't necessarily putting up the fantasy production that you needed for him at his price tag. So that's why if it's multiple lineups, yes, you absolutely have to mix him in. Otherwise, I like most over 8K tonight. The pitcher I like most is actually Alek Manoah going up against the Nationals. And I know when you look at them and their strikeout numbers against right-handed pitching, it's not necessarily as favorable. But this month, I know Charlie Morton has gotten 7 strikeouts twice against them. I know Wheeler only got 5, but then I see Aaron Nola got 7 against them as well. And then Marcus Stroman got 8. So I'm looking at that, and that is a depleted lineup, and this is a guy who has a lot of strikeout potential. I like him more, and you're going to save a little bit of salary, and there's a lot of good hitter options, and I'd rather save up for that.
Matt, what do you think? Do you feel like Burnes is a must roster, or are you going to go elsewhere?
So that last point there about saving salary for hitters, I think that's always where I'm kind of leaning, especially on a slate this large. Corbin Burnes should be the most expensive pitcher on the slate. He probably deserves to be the highest owned pitcher. But you just don't necessarily win tournaments by playing the top pitcher when they're really popular. And even if Burnes goes out and puts up 30 points, 35 points even, you could find 2 other pitchers with so many different choices that are all pretty good, or there are a lot of good ones anyway, that could get 25 or 30 themselves, and then you just don't need Burnes, and some of the other pitchers are cheaper, so you can afford bigger bats with them. So I think Burnes is a really good play. This is obviously not the Cubs. That was basically the best matchup in baseball, where he put up the nearly 50 fantasy points last time out. The Cardinals against righties have struggled, but they're still a much better offense than the Cubs are right now. So I think Burnes is a good play. I think it's not necessary to force him into your lineups, though. And if you're playing a cheaper stack, go ahead and use him. If you want to play a more expensive stack, and that means you can't use him, I think that's a totally fine thing to do also.